Have you ever noticed that the more you chase something, the further it seems to drift away? It's as if the moment we fixate on a goal, whether it's love, success, happiness, peace, it slips just beyond reach, like a mirage in the desert. And we don't stop. We run harder. We build our identity around the chase. We tell ourselves, I'm ambitious, I'm motivated, I'm focused. But here's the unsettling truth. What if the very act of chasing is the reason we're never arriving? We're conditioned to chase. From the moment we entered this world, we're fed a story: chase good grades, chase approval, chase beauty, chase money, chase the dream. And the story sounds noble, but the logic is broken. Because chasing, by nature, assumes that what you desire is outside of you. It reinforces a reality where you're always behind, always lacking, always unworthy until you catch what you're after. That mindset, though praised by society, is a loop or trap. A treadmill that exhausts the soul while giving the illusion of progress.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
And here's where it gets philosophical. We believe that chasing equals striving, and striving equals meaning. But striving for what? To become who? And based on whose definition? The ancient Stoics questioned this pursuit relentlessly. Epictetus warned, freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it. That's not a call to apathy. It's a recognition of how desire can mutate into obsession, and how obsession blinds us to what's already here. Let me ask you something radical. What if the thing you're chasing isn't something to be caught, but something to be remembered? What if fulfillment isn't found ahead of you, but within you, obscured by the dust of constant motion? Think about it. The happiest moments of your life, were they the result of chasing something, or the moments where you forgot the chase altogether? Maybe it was laughing with a friend, walking under a quiet sky, getting lost in art and music in presence. In those moments, you weren't trying to grasp anything. You weren't reaching, you were being. And in being, you found everything. But that way of existing doesn't sell. You can't sell enough. You can't monetize presence. So instead, we are sold a dream just far enough away to keep us moving, spending, upgrading, sacrificing. And the sickest part? We wear the suffering like a badge of honor. I'm hustling. I'm grinding. I'm sacrificing now for a better future. But what if the very act of postponing your peace is what ensures you never find it? This doesn't mean we shouldn't have goals. It means we must ask, are my goals rooted in truth or in lack, in alignment or in fear? Because goals that arise from inner stillness carry a different frequency than goals born of insecurity. One expands you. The other enslaves you. When you chase something out of fear of being irrelevant, unlovable, unseen, you bring desperation into every action. And desperation is a repellent. Whether it's relationships, business, or self-worth, people can feel when you're chasing out of emptiness. It's heavy. It's tense. It bends reality around your anxiety. But when you move from wholeness, from grounded intention, everything changes. You become like gravity, still, magnetic, centered. You attract, not because you beg, but because you embody. The Taoists understood this better than anyone. Lao Tzu wrote, "When you let go of what you are, you become what you might be." In other words, chasing keeps you frozen in an identity of lack. Letting go opens you to the flow of what you are becoming, not by force, but by emergence. This is the paradox. What you truly want is usually hiding beneath the version of you that believes you must chase it. You can't chase peace, you must become still. You can't chase love, you must become love. You can't chase success, you must become worthy internally before any external success will feel satisfying. Let's make this real. Have you ever chased someone emotionally? You think, if I do just a little more, prove a little harder, maybe they'll love me back. And what happens? You feel smaller, more invisible, more desperate. Not because you don't deserve love, but because you're trying to earn something that was never meant to be transactional. Real love doesn't arrive when you become perfect. It arrives when you become authentic. The chase killed your essence. The surrender restores it. This dynamic shows up everywhere, in career, and in friendships, even in our spiritual journeys. How many people chase enlightenment like it's a race? They meditate, they fast, they read, they strive until even inner peace becomes a status symbol. But enlightenment isn't a trophy. It's the dissolving of the one who wanted the trophy in the first place. And this brings us to the deepest question of all: who are you when you stop chasing? Not just externally, but internally. Who are you when you sit still with yourself and no longer try to escape the present moment? Most people don't want to find out, because stillness is confronting. Stillness reveals the noise inside. And the chase, though exhausting, is a distraction. It keeps us too busy to feel the ache, too preoccupied to face the truth. But truth waits, and eventually the chase ends not because we win, but because we collapse. Collapse is not failure. It's the invitation to finally stop running. So what happens next once we've paused? Once we've stopped chasing, even for a moment? We begin to see clearly. We begin to ask different questions. Not how do I get more, but why do I believe I need more? Not who do I need to become to be loved, but what part of me already is? These are not passive questions. They are liberating. And from this space, something sacred starts to emerge: choice. You start living from intention, not addiction. You begin to act, not react. You no longer chase the future, you meet the present with reverence. And in doing so, you begin to feel something you may have forgotten was possible: enoughness. With a deep exhale, the return, the realization that what you were looking for was never lost. It was just covered by the dust of your own striving. And when you begin to peel back the layers of striving, when the noise of chasing begins to fall silent, you finally confront the most uncomfortable and liberating reality of all. You were never missing what you were chasing. You were simply out of alignment with the part of you that knew it was already there. The chase gave you the illusion of progress, but in truth it was keeping you in a constant state of deferral. You weren't living, you were rehearsing. You were rehearsing for a future self who would finally be worthy. You were rehearsing for a tomorrow where everything would make sense, where people would finally see your value, where the ache inside would vanish. But here's the brutal truth: that day never comes, because chasing creates a moving target. It says, when I get there, then I'll be happy. But when you arrive, the goalpost has already moved. That's the trap. And the longer you stay in it, the more you begin to feel like life itself is running away from you, when in reality, it's standing right in front of you, waiting for you to stop running long enough to see it. Let's go deeper. Why is this illusion so powerful? Because it feels like motion, and motion gives us the sensation of purpose. But not all motion is meaningful. A hamster on a wheel is moving furiously but going nowhere. That's how many of us live, exerting endless energy, convincing ourselves we're advancing, while internally we're becoming more hollow, more burned out, more detached from ourselves. We scroll to feel connected, but feel emptier. We work to feel accomplished, but feel more behind. We chase love to feel whole, but feel more fragmented. So we chase harder, and the wheel spins faster. But speed is not the same as direction, and motion is not the same as meaning. We mistake momentum for progress, but momentum without awareness only deepens the wound. And this is where things get even more philosophical. The chase doesn't just distract you from your destination, it becomes your identity. We stop asking who we are and instead define ourselves by what we're pursuing. We say, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a seeker, I'm a creator. But those are roles, not roots. They are expressions, not essence. And so long as we tie our identity to the chase, we remain dependent on reaching something to feel like we are something. That's why so many people achieve what they thought they wanted: wealth, status, recognition, and still feel empty. Because if your identity is built on pursuit, arrival feels like death. Stillness feels like erasure. You don't know who you are unless you're chasing. So you invent new goals. You move the finish line. You re-enter the loop. But what if you didn't? What if you allowed yourself to sit in that terrifying space of non-striving, not to quit, but to ask, what is the quality of my life when I am not chasing anything? Most people have no idea how to answer that, because they've never allowed themselves to just be. We live in a world that praises productivity, not presence, that rewards sacrifice, not self-awareness. And so even rest becomes performative. Even healing becomes something we try to optimize and track and measure. We are addicted to becoming because we are terrified of being. But what if being wasn't the opposite of progress, but the foundation of it? What if the truth you're seeking, the peace, the clarity, the connection is already inside you, buried beneath the rubble of all your striving? This is not a mystical abstraction. It's a daily, practical shift. It means beginning your morning not with a sprint toward goals, but a return to breath, awareness, to you. It means sitting in silence long enough to hear what your heart is actually saying, not what your ego is yelling. It means doing things not to be seen, but to feel alive. Creating not to impress, but to express. Loving not to be validated, but to be open. Because here's the hidden cost of the chase. It closes your heart. When you chase from lack, you harden. You become calculative, guarded, defensive. Your nervous system is in a constant state of tension. You are trying to force life to love you, instead of letting life move through you. And nothing beautiful thrives in force. Beauty blooms in space, in stillness, in surrender. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a field, arms outstretched, chasing butterflies. You're running, flailing, desperate, but they keep slipping away, until one day you sit down. You breathe, you stop grasping, and one of those butterflies, maybe the very one you were chasing, lands gently on your shoulder. That's the power of alignment over effort. That's the difference between control and presence. You don't stop desiring, but your desires soften. They mature. They stop screaming, "You are not enough," and start whispering, "Come home to yourself." And maybe this is the truth we've been avoiding all along, that chasing is easier than feeling. It's easier to run towards something external than to face the internal discomfort of being still. But only in that stillness can healing begin. Only in that stillness can we remember what we already are. So let me ask you a question most people are too busy to answer. What if what you're chasing is simply a reflection of what you're afraid to become still enough to feel? And what would happen if you finally stopped, turned inward, and asked yourself, what do I already know beneath all this striving? Because the moment you stop chasing, you begin receiving. Not always what you want, but what you need. And often those are very different things. One comes from ego. The other comes from essence. And essence never chases. It waits. It trusts. It knows. And when you finally stop running, when you surrender the compulsive pursuit and let the dust of your striving settle, something extraordinary begins to reveal itself, not all at once, but in fragments, in quiet revelations, in the soft echo of your own breath. You realize that what you've been chasing all this time was never lost. It was never beyond reach. It was simply inaccessible to the version of you that believed it had to hustle, beg, and perform to be worthy. The peace you longed for was not hidden in the future. It was hidden beneath the layers of resistance you wrapped around the present. And now, for the first time, you feel what it's like to receive, not to take, not to conquer, not to grab, but to allow, to let life meet you, to let it offer you what you could never force. And what arrives in that moment is not just the outcome you once chased, but a deeper realization you never needed the thing. You needed the state of being you thought the thing would give you. You didn't need to be admired. You needed to love yourself enough to no longer crave it. You didn't need to win. You needed to stop feeling like you were constantly losing. And in this space, this stillness, you begin to witness the reconfiguration of your identity. You are no longer a chaser. You are a receiver, a channel. A space through which life can move freely, without resistance, without agenda, without fear, and that changes everything. Because when you are no longer trying to control the narrative, life gets to surprise you. You no longer audition for roles in other people's stories. You begin to write your own, and it's not perfect. It's not polished. But it's yours. It breathes with your rhythm. It pulses with your values. And people feel it. The relationships you attract are different. You no longer magnetize based on lack on what you can give or prove. You magnetize based on truth. The ones who enter your life now don't come to complete you. They come to complement the self you've already reclaimed. And you don't chase them. You don't need to. They arrive, just like the butterfly, not because you captured them, but because you became still enough for them to land. Receiving is not passive. It is powerful. It requires trust, presence, patience, qualities that are almost extinct in a culture obsessed with achievement and speed. But when you cultivate them, you become sovereign, unshakable. You no longer panic when things don't happen on your timeline, because your timeline is no longer dictated by fear. You can feel the rhythms of life, when to act, when to rest, when to speak, when to wait. You become like water, fluid, adaptable, deep, and in that flow, your creativity expands. Your joy returns. Your clarity sharpens. You are no longer navigating from the wounds of your past or the fantasies of your future. You are rooted in the only moment that ever truly exists now. And this is where it all comes full circle. The paradox of finding what you truly want is that you only find it when you stop chasing it. Not because life is cruel, but because chasing places you in the wrong frequency. It says, I'm not whole yet. I don't have it yet. I'm far away. But receiving says, I'm ready. I'm here. I trust. That's not weakness. That's alignment. And alignment is where miracles happen, not the fantasy kind, but the grounded, slow, steady miracles of becoming real. Of building a life that doesn't just look good but feels right. A life that doesn't burn you out but nourishes you. A life that doesn't chase meaning but breathes it into every moment. And so now the question becomes deeply personal. Where in your life are you still chasing? What fear is fueling that pursuit? And who would you become if you let go of the need to catch it and instead allowed yourself to receive what's already moving toward you, if only you'd make space for it? Because the truth is, your destiny isn't something you catch. It's something you align with. And alignment isn't about effort. It's about remembering. Remembering who you were before the chase, or before the striving. Before you learned that love had to be earned, that peace had to be postponed, that success had to be fought for. You were whole then. You are whole now. The chase merely distracted you from the truth. So stop running. Get quiet. Let the silence speak. Let the grief of wasted motion pass through you. And then let yourself open not like a strategy, but like a sunrise. Slow, honest, undeniable. Because the world does not need another person who can run faster. It needs someone who can stand still and light the way. That someone is you.